On the count of five, four, three, two, one. Hello and welcome to productlessons.com, a podcast series where we talk to product leaders from all over the world and learn from them how they build and manage world-class software products. So today I'm thrilled to have with me an exciting guest. His name is Jeremy Horn. Jeremy Horn is the VP Global Head of Product Management Cognizant. He's an award-winning product management veteran with 2 decades of experience leading and managing product teams. Held several leadership positions all through his career, like Viacom, Toughy Single Feed, and he's now the VP Global Product Management at Cognizant. Jeremy has held various executive and advisory roles, from founder of several startups to driving diverse organizations in online services, consumer products, and wearables. As founder of the product group, he has created the largest product management meetup in the world and hosts the annual awarding of the best product person. Very curious, we'll get to know more about this. Accelerating the next evolution of product management, Jeremy acted as a creator and instructor of the 10-week product management course at General Assembly and the New School, and mentoring at Women 2.0 and Lean Startup Machine, where he's also a judge. In fact, 8 years ago, to be precise, I was a beneficiary of Jeremy's PM mentoring project. So he matched all the mentors and the mentee from all over the world, and he matched me with Suresh Krishna, director of product management at Oracle, who took weekly classes and did a ton of help to me. So yeah, he has done not just for me but for the entire product management community, and he is massively respected for that. And it is because of his generosity that he agreed for a 2-hour marathon podcast. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome to productlessons.com. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm looking forward to talking to you and everyone else. It's been 8 years. I did not realize. Oh my gosh, I did not realize it's been that long. I did not realize.
You have done maybe the introduction fell short. I'm sure we have missed out on a lot of things that you have forgotten about, but people like me remember. So yeah,
I'm just getting old. I think that's all it is.
So Jeremy, you are a veteran, and you have done a ton of things in your lifetime. However, it would be great to know your story, your career trajectory, on how this product journey began. Maybe we can start with that, and that would be a great setup for the conversation today.
Sure, I'll give you the full story. I'll give you the long version.
Sure.
So when I started programming when I was extremely young. When I started out. My dad used to take me along to the boys club, and where he used to teach computer programming to other students there. And I used to come along, and then after a while, you leave a kid in front of a computer after a while. At some point, they're going to start typing. So I ended up starting programming when I was 5, just because I happened to be sitting in front of a computer. And I spent a lot of my youth in front of a computer writing code, starting with my Commodore 64s and Apple IIes, and then kind of progressing from there. And so I was very much into computers, very much into art. And so I always kind of, I'd say, before I got into any of this, I used to tell my relatives I'm an inventor, because I always liked the technology. I always liked the computers. I was on the internet long ago, back in the 80s. And so when I go to college, I decided computers, let's do something harder. And so I go and try to do some I was going to major in astrophysics. And so I go to Carnegie Mellon. I'm the class of 2000. I'm a class of 2000-ish or something around there. And I go to Carnegie Mellon to basically do astrophysics. And so what ends up happening is my first summer there, I'm looking for some work. And as I'm looking for some work, I go and interview for a web programming job, especially back then. That's some easy stuff. So I figure I'll go do some web web work. And shortly after talking with the person who is in charge of the lab that I was interviewing with, and he turned out to be a great mentor for me, especially at the right moment in time in my life. Ends up telling me about a character recognition project that went off the rails, and he's looking for someone to run the project. He doesn't want me to do the web stuff, and so next thing I know is I'm debugging neural networks and trying to fix it. Not too long after that, I'm running a lot of the projects in the lab. Some of the first digital libraries came out of our work. Did a lot of work with character recognition. And so Chinese, Korean, and so we did a lot of stuff there, defining the feature sets, figuring out how to make it work. And so that's kind of what sets me on this different path, because while working there, we got hacked pretty bad. But kind of in looking into it, and now at that point, I'm in the place where I'm designing neural networks. I'm running a lot of this lab, and where all of a sudden just a whole bunch of opportunities came up in applying AI to network security. And so as a side project, I end up basically starting one of my first companies in the 90s there. And
which year was that?
It's probably 97, 98, probably around. So end up starting one of my first companies. And just put everything else behind me, and I do my first startup in the 90s there, and basically I end up finding out I have the fortune of working at MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, and reaching out to places like E-Trade, and those are kind of end up being some of my initial customers, initial users, kind of for my first startup. And so that's all of a sudden what kind of pivots me. I end up going from astrophysics down to the path of all of a sudden kind of doing startups and being a product person. And when I went down, it was never intentional, but also it was the time. It was the 90s. Everyone's doing a startup, so it was almost obligatory at that moment in time. And so I basically go down that path. And I think one of the things that has been most fortunate about my career, about my path, is the fact that with my very first startup, I think I made almost every mistake you could make in a startup, and I'm always very learning centric. So I think I was able to pack a lot of those early life lessons in to that very first startup that I ever did. From too many things at once to too many priorities. At one point, I think I have us doing network security and stuff for museums because it was an idea. So basically from there, I end up basically working at other startups, basically being from like VP new products to other basically heads of product roles, creating product organizations. And that's kind of what the trajectory was. I think what guided me always is I looked for companies. What's guided me, I think, through my life, I think the reason I went to astrophysics, I was looking for something hard. And so what's kind of always guided me was opportunities and challenges and kind of taking things to that next level. I was never married too much to one industry or another. I've touched almost every vertical, almost every horizontal that my current company is involved, and they're involved in all of them, and all around the world. And so that was kind of what got me on the path. Like I say, I didn't initially know I was a product manager, even when my title was VP New Products. I did not realize that was called product management at the time, but that's what I was doing. And so I have a bit of a unique career trajectory, and I was very fortunate because of just kind of by chance, but also being prepared and by chance kind of falling into this path, starting with the startups. But from day one, from my company to the next company, I was always running the product teams and creating the product organizations, and working through process before process had names, and kind of always kind of iterating and learning and baking that in. And that's kind of what's guided me. I've worked mostly in the startup world, but I've worked in some large companies. You mentioned Viacom, one of them. I'm now over at Cognizant. And we're doing it at like the most awesome time imaginable. It's an awesome company. And it's also just it's at a point in time at a macro scale, at everyone knows we need to be more outcome oriented. We need to be more focused on business value. We need to be learning and being more dynamic. And so I'm excited. I've got a lot of smart people that I work with now today, and we're creating something awesome with a lot of awesome people here.
Got it. We'll talk about your current role and the immediate one before that. However, I still did not get the answer of why did you find product management as your career home, because you said you started as a programmer, you were a techie, you could have led engineering, say head of engineering maybe. What made you stick around product management?
Product management was, I'd say it initially, I'd say there's probably 2 or 3 major dimensions to that. In that product management for me was a way to kind of bring my creative and an artistic side together, my design side, and my technology side together. I think that was one dimension. And then the other dimension was I like solving problems. I like helping people. I like, I don't care if the solution's hard or easy. I just like the solution. And so I enjoy problems, whether it's a word problem or a user problem or a company's problem. I like problems. And I like knowing that getting involved with my experience and across a wide spectrum is able to kind of get in there and make a difference for people.
Got it. And then you became hugely passionate, and your passion showed because you built communities, you led groups. How did that happen? I mean, why did you feel the need of doing more than just working in your organization and just going out, building product communities and helping people?
So, like I'd say, like I made mistakes in my career, right? We all do. And product management's tough. The product group, the mentorship program, all the different initiatives that I do at a very high level come from the place of, man, I wish I had that. I wish I had someone to say, like, how did you deal with this problem, whether it's a stakeholder or management, or how did you get this information for the product? And I didn't have that. And so it just made sense at those moments in time. The product group was kind of I'd say some of my most successful things I probably put the least thought into in my career. And so the product group and the product mentor would be 2 of those. And so the product group, back at a point in time when you used to use Twitter and actually meet new people, which would mean a long time ago. I was on Twitter. I was talking about doing some work. I was doing some consulting work with some clients around product management, and I was talking about doing some work in New York City. And someone reached out to me, and they said, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing some similar type of stuff in New York. I'd love to meet up over coffee, and just chat. Let's meet up for like half an hour." And I said, "That sounds great." The idea of actually talking about it just seemed awesome. And so we meet up. We were supposed to talk for half an hour. 3 hours later, we're still talking. And at the end of that, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could find some other people that would join the chat? And then she said yes. And then I was like, all right. And so I go home that evening. I go to meetup.com because I've been, especially from a lot of my startup time, I use Meetup for a lot of networking in the startup world. And so I go on there and I create the product group that evening. Everything you see today, I did that evening. There wasn't, and I think that's August 31st, 2009. And so I just did all that evening, and then I put it out there to see what would happen. I think about 10, 11 people showed up to the first one. 3 people showed up to the second one. And then the fourth one, I think we had 10 or 20, and then the rest, it just grew from there. And so and then the mentorship program, after a lot of meetups, people would often ask me to mentor them. They say, can you help me out? And can you mentor me? Can you show me the ropes? And so I often do coffee with people, but they were asking for a bit more. And so I kept saying, oh no, I don't have time. I don't have time. I can't do it. Then one evening, it was kind of like, it was just one question too many. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, let's see what happens. And so I go home that evening, draft like a little tiny email that I just figure I'll just blast out to the meetup, my meetup community. And basically I did it as an MVP, as just a quick experiment. And so I said, by Friday, if I get 20 mentors and 20 mentees by Friday who say they're interested, then I guess we're going to do a mentor program. If not, then everyone leave me alone. That was, I did it like that. So I didn't put any more thought into it than that. Somehow it goes global. And all of a sudden I'm getting mentors and mentees from all around the world, and so many more than I could have ever imagined. And so then that weekend I said, oh, I guess we're going to do a mentorship program. So I spent the next kind of few months figuring out how we're gonna do it and structure it, and then we launched. We did the first class. I think we've done 12 or 13 classes at this point, and each class basically always took the learnings from the class, always did retros at the end, and made changes and now we've gotten it to a place where it's a pretty good steady state. We also even have a dashboard that helps us manage everything. So we're really good. We do it very OKR driven, as you know. We do it very OKR driven, where it's basically we work to help establish goals to make better product people, not better products, but the people themselves. And so we work towards those goals. We share the goals. People write articles. Mentors kind of give video talks. And it's basically one mentor and one mentee gets paired up for the duration of 6 months. And I'm very proud that we're in over 25 countries around the world where we're constantly cross-pollinating perspectives and ideas. But I'd say like they both just came out of a place of, man, I wish I had a mentor in product management. I had mentors in other areas, but no one was able to help me in the core stuff that I was most interested in, most fascinated in. Whether it's product management or whatever. And the product group, man, as a product manager, sometimes you just feel like you need someone to talk to about stuff. In a lot of places, it can feel very insular. You might be the only product person, especially as you go back over the years. There weren't always a lot of product people in companies. And so it was just, how can you just get together? And we did. I basically we started the product group at, I looked for the worst restaurant I could find in New York City. And what I mean by that is I needed a place that, on Thursday evening, when everyone else was eating dinner, no one was eating there. And so I wandered neighborhoods from September 1st until nearly the end of September. And then I found a Chinese restaurant in Chelsea, New York City, and in the Chelsea neighborhood that basically was empty, because I figured if it's empty, they won't mind if people order or don't order. They'll just be happy there's people in there. And so that's what we did. And we stayed in that place until we couldn't fit anymore. And we found our format back then. Like and I always made decisions. What do I want? What would I like to hear? I like hearing about other products and figuring out how we could all do them differently. And it's just a place to share. Like, I remember one of the initial questions in the first meetup, someone said, my boss told me to do X, what should I do? And so it was like, that was the point. It was kind of meet up over dinner, laid back atmosphere, roundtable sort of conversation, like family style, like it was just family style conversation, keep it laid back. And we've just grown ever since. Never could figure out the marketing, but it just grows and grows and grows. It's even now, it's a little slower, but it's still growing and we're still working through it.
Tell us, how does the mentoring program, people who are listening to this episode and might not have known about this, how does this work? Do you pay something for the mentorship program? How does this work? A little more.
I never. All my stuff is free. Like these, I want all these things to be accessible. So the meetup, whether you're in New York City or London, or the mentorship program, they're free. I won't. I think one of the important things is I've always worked to make sure we either have sponsors or people donating space for the meetups. The mentorship program, it's free. The requirement for mentorship program as a mentee is that you're going to put the work in. I want it to be a rewarding experience for the mentee and the mentor. If a mentor is giving you good advice, I want to make sure the mentee's in a product role that they can apply that advice. Because if the advice works or doesn't, that's where you want to work with your mentor and iterate and get better and figure out what works or doesn't work in your different environment. At the end of the day, I just want to make sure people that we pick need help and are going to put the effort in to apply that help to what they're working on. So yeah, it's free. You just go to theproductmentor.com and you just sign up to be a mentor or a mentee. We always need more mentors, so feel free to, if you've got a good amount of experience in product management, we can always use more of those.
No, this is amazing, because you are not just matching up a mentor and a mentee, but you are actually being mindful of the course content and the curriculum, and you are actually driving metrics to ensure that the mentorship is actually reaping dividends to make excellent product people. So, and you're doing all of this for free. So this is like nothing could have been better than this. Tell me, Jeremy, what has all of this done to you? I mean, what has it given to you back after all these years of contributing to the community?
Well, I just like learning. And like product, as is now obvious to anyone listening, product management is my day job. Product management is my hobby. There's always areas for even myself to learn and explore new things. So whether back in the time where you could meet up over a coffee with someone, I'd always be meeting up with someone, learning how they do product, learning about their product, just learning about their background. So I like learning about people. I like learning about how people create products. And I just getting new perspectives. And so the product group has enabled that. The mentorship programs enabled that. And it's also just been fascinating to see how people think about product, how think about approach different areas around the world. And then and the product group has always been about a thing about cross-pollinating ideas. It was always about getting people from different size companies, different industries in the same room, and realizing that you're all doing product management of some form and cross-pollinating those ideas. Someone who did something in a restaurant, maybe I can use it for my new tech startup. And there's always kind of those kinds of opportunities there. And similar sort of thing with the mentorship program. With the mentorship thing, it's always been about cross-pollinating, and this one we do at scale across geographies, whether you're in Spain or Greece, or India, Singapore, Canada, US, wherever you are. It's about kind of just cross-pollinating those perspectives and learning, and always same sort of thing. I got out of the lessons that I've taught and the curriculums I've built. It's kind of as a teacher, as a facilitator, it's great because you get great questions, and every time you get challenged in something, you get to learn from it, and you get to think about it, and you get to refine how you would explain. You get better at explaining these different concepts. So it helps me learn, but at the end of the day, I just like meeting all the people. I like learning all the different perspectives. And once in a while, I learn a new process or a new approach, and I can't wait to go try it myself to see. And a lot of these things, it's not that someone went to create it, it's just what made sense to them at that moment. And so those are the fun things to kind of discover along the way.
Excellent. So, Jeremy, you have had a long career, and I'm sure after all these years, you might have ideas on how best to plan one's product career. There are people who might be much younger than you or starting their product management careers. Maybe you would have learned lessons that you would not want to repeat again in case you had to start it all over again. So what are your ideas on somebody who is new to plan his product career?
Don't overthink it. I think it's the first thing. Is you might want, if you want to be a product manager in industry X or at company Y, the first thing you want to make sure you're doing as a product manager is get into the role, and then everything that you're doing in that role, look at it as, even whether it's the perfect company for you, because you're trying to start out, you're trying to earn your stripes in product management, and that experience, get that title is kind of the entrance key to all the other product management roles. Product management has that strange chicken and egg problem, in that everyone wants a product manager with experience. So how do you get that experience? How do you break in? And so you want to get in and then look at it, everything that you're doing there, everything you're doing in whatever product role you get, because you want to get that first one. You want to be thinking about, how does this look? How does this translate into a bullet on my resume? Maybe it turns out that you end up saying, this is the one I want to do for the long term. Maybe you realize as you go through it, this is the industry you want to be in, or this is the company you want to stay at, which is great. But if you still end up wanting to kind of go to that other place, always be looking to kind of everything you're doing, every project, how does this translate into key metrics, key business objectives that I want to have represented on my resume? So you want to think about, because that resume is about selling yourself, and it should be almost like a menu of things that someone who hires you next is going to get for their own products. Now, getting into going even before that, kind of getting into product management. There's a lot of different paths into it. Like I said, I have a bit of a unique one. I just started out I started by running the product teams and creating the product organizations. That's literally where I started, which is not a normal path. Don't expect that. But when you're thinking about when you're thinking about getting in, so a lot of time I'll advise, sometimes a BA role, a business analyst role is a good entrance in some places to kind of at least build some of that skill set. Other places in the startup world, if you have maybe some programming chops and some others, you want to just be transparent with the people that you're working for. If you're interested in getting the product management, you might be able to get an adjacent role to it, and maybe wear two hats or get into a few projects. If you're in a company that has product management, reach out to that department and see if there's a few projects you can get involved in, kind of build up that skill set. You might be able to transition into that group, or if you're more of in a startup environment, you might be able to be that first product manager, and while you're also the third coder. And so you have to be a little bit creative. I'd say at the beginning, maybe you don't want to be super choosy. Because at the end, you want that title. You want to get that title. From there, that's your foundation that you can then build on to kind of move you along the path, whichever path it is that you're looking to take, whether it's IC or management or whichever one.
Got it. So I think we have a question from Krishna Reddy, just beaming it onto the screen. He said, how do I transit from a tech lead role to PM? So what are some of the ways that he could try to get into PM?
I think the examples I just listed, I think when you're thinking about whatever role you're in, like at the end of the day, let's think about what a product manager does. Product manager sets that North Star. The product manager makes sure, figures out what those business outcomes need to be. They help them. They identify those key performance indicators. They align them with the key business objectives, and they're continuously getting the right people in the room to not just innovate, but to figure out what the best things that we can do as a team, as a group, to move towards those North Star goals. And so when you think about that as a tech lead, so in the past you might have thought about improving queries per second 30%, or you might have thought about reducing storage needs. Take that one step further. Think about so you want to start contextualizing your work in terms of business. What was the impact on the business when you improved queries per second? What was the cost reduction when you reduced storage needs? So you want to start being able to contextualize yourself from that business perspective. As a tech lead, maybe you kind of go to a more technical product manager role, but I think a lot of those other steps that I outlined, just in general, how do you get into product? I think that applies there as well. But start working to contextualize yourself, start making sure, like, as you look at your resume, you're contextualizing that in terms of the business. What impact did you as that tech lead have on the business? And do think about why you want to be that product manager. The best ones are the ones who want to help solve problems for people. So if that is you, then that's the conversation you want to be having about how to get involved more on the product side. Maybe participating and helping out with some customer development or customer research that's going on and starting to kind of dip your toe in on over there as well.
Got it. So sometimes I am asked by youngsters about getting a certification or getting a course done just to compensate for the lack of experience on a resume, on the CV. Would you also advise and suggest that? Because
No,
no,
not
okay.
at all. So if you take a class, you should take a class because it's a skill that you want to learn for yourself, period. Stop there. The certification, that doesn't tell me anything. I think there's a lot of good programs out there, a lot of good classes, and more importantly, what those classes that are being taught by good teachers. Like that's what you really want to be looking for. Certifications, like in some fields, work well, or they communicate certain kind of capabilities. Product management, sure, there's fundamental skills that are good to learn, but until you apply them in the real world, like that's when you actually realize what those skills really were, so how to really use those. And so if you want to learn how to do road mapping, definitely go take an OKR class or go take a road mapping class, or you want to learn what MVPs are or what lean is or any of the, absolutely take a class. Pragmatic marketing's got good stuff. Like there's a lot of good stuff all around. But you take it because you want to learn it. It is infrequent or less than infrequent that the certifications in product management are going to get you a job. You should be taking wherever you're going, whatever you're doing. And there's a few good programs out there. Not a lot of them. That are worth looking into, that you can develop those skill sets. But then it's not a certification in product management. And that's not going to open the door. I want to know how you deal with people, how you work through challenging situations. Do you have an analytical mind? How did you use it? Like what did you do? Are you creative? What did you do? Like that's what I want. What did you do? And I think when you're thinking about a lot of product management roles, I know what I look for. I don't care about the background. I don't care about the path you came from. I care about, can you do X, Y, and Z? Like I'm looking for certain skills. If you can do those skills, great. I don't care what your degree is. If you have a degree, if you can handle a certain level of complexity, have a certain level of business impact, that's what I care about. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to have that impact. So if you have a degree, cool. If you can use it, even better. But certifications, those types of things, not just myself, but in general, it's not going to open a door for really any kind of product management roles.
Got it. The next step is you get into product management. You succeeded into getting in. How can you accelerate your career growth in product management? Because usually what happens is somebody who's new, he would spend a lot of years trying to figure it out all by himself. But somebody who has been through that journey, how would you advise a newbie to be very efficient and effective in his career growth and to a fast track?
Well, I don't. Let's not try to think of it as a fast track, right? So we want to talk about just progressing your career, and so let's look at that. Let's just break that down. What does that mean? So that in general, when you're thinking about what that means, is it's an increasing areas of responsibility, increasing ownership over different product areas within product management, or within that team, within that organization. And so when you think, first, you got to master the fundamentals, road mapping, stakeholder management, innovating, getting user information, synthesizing that data. So those are your fundamentals, right? Then when you go, now you got to build on top of that. So now you've got the people skills, right? And so I think at the end of the day, I always look at product management all the way up to the point of like even fleshing out that product strategy. I look at that's the foundation. What takes you to that next level is your ability to communicate, to tell a story, to tell a narrative, your ability to paint the picture, and communicate to all the different tiers. Have that trust and credibility, because through that trust, through that credibility, through that demonstration of performance, and that again, you're connecting it back to what the key business objectives are, how you got achieved those objectives, or you got beyond those objectives, constantly showing that and earning and kind of leveraging that, combined with communication, combined with like managing the politics, internal, external, to your team, continuing to work on that. That's where you show, that's where you build that kind of trust and credibility. And that's where you're going to earn a bigger slice of the pie as you kind of move on up. At some point, you then have to make a choice. Do you want to stay on the IC track, or do you want to kind of go the manager track? I think in product management, unfortunately, many places in product management, I think people in the product management role at some point, the only choice they have is to become a manager of other product managers, which is a very different job. It's a completely different job. So it's kind of all of a sudden you get promoted and like, whoa, where'd my products go? And so it's a big change. And so I think some places do provide, like what I've done here at Cognizant is I provided 2 tracks, so that you can kind of go a manager track, or you can keep progressing as an IC. I think that's an important option to give people, especially as they get more and more senior in their experience. And so like an IC track is you enjoy working on the products, working through the roadmap and the product strategy. When you go down the manager track, your people, your team are kind of your product, and how can you and your users, like how can you solve problems for them? How can you help empower them, enable them, and how can you improve them, help them progress along whatever career path they want to do. So it's a very different type of animal, very different kind of skill set there. Not necessarily one necessarily always leads to the other. But it's a lot of it. It's that communication. It's the kind of developing the people skills, and the better you're getting at that, you're going to start to develop. Especially once you get past the fundamentals, the better the more progress you'll be making there.
Got it. What about choices like to work in a startup or in a large organization, and all of these choices, whether to stay in a domain, in an industry, and become an industry or domain expert, or to shuffle across industries domain? What would work for the benefit of a long-term career growth?
It really depends where you want to go. So I can both of those things are completely valid paths to go down. And I'd say in general, I prefer hiring people outside of an industry into a new product or into a new role, because that helps. Especially you've got the fundamentals, you understand, you can handle that complexity and impact. But now you're looking at it from a perspective that the team hasn't looked at it before. You're looking at it from a perspective the business hasn't looked at it before. So I think in general, that's how I like to hire and build teams. I think sometimes, so the reality is, especially when you're building up certain teams of scale, or you have certain skill sets, at some levels, sometimes just because of you don't have a big bulk of people in some area, you do hire for those different areas or those different verticals or horizontals of expertise, because kind of the needs call for it. I think if you have the luxury of just hiring generically, that works great. The reason I say that, because now that feeds into like, what do you want to do? Like if you love finance, just stay in finance. Like do what you want to do, your thing. If you're driven more by problem solving, more in the vein like that I was, then jump around. But I will tell you, sometimes that can be more challenging, because you go into advertising, they might say, hey, we're looking for a junior product manager or middle tier product manager, but we hope that they have experience in advertising. Sometimes you can overcome that hurdle by demonstrating your understanding and your perspective in the interview. But sometimes you can't get that interview if you don't check that button. So different companies are different. By definition, so they're different, and they approach product management different from different perspectives. But I think the company's industry is evolving. I think more and more are looking at it to kind of, if they can do good product management, then people are getting more and more willing to kind of hire outside the vertical, which at the end of the day, that's where you want to get your organization to. Like I said, in some places, in certain circumstances, you can't exactly do that out of the gate, or you're not ready for that yet. But once you can do that, you can really start cross-pollinating ideas, even if you organize into specific groups later on.
Got it. I also have observed that if a product manager has worked in different industries, different products, it just makes him more attractive in the marketplace. And also for him, if he only sticks to one domain for long, he gets slotted vis-a-vis somebody who has moved across industries, because then the world becomes your oyster, right? So the opportunities are, you can go anywhere vis-a-vis somebody who is sticking to one industry. So thanks for providing that. But did we cover about the startup and the large organization piece? No, I think.
What was that question?
Between should we work on startup, or should we start our careers with large organization, or a mix of both?
Oh, where should you start? Like if this is really like, where should I start as a product manager? Wherever you can start as a product manager, start there. It's there's a lot of similarities. Even with B2B, B2C, there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences. There's a lot of different problems you're going to experience. Larger companies is going to you can't not have more politics in a larger company, and not necessarily good or bad politics. It's just more people and coordination and organizational knowledge to learn versus a startup. But it's going to be different. In a startup also, even if you are doing product management, you also might be doing some marketing and other things. So you kind of get exposure to other areas. And maybe then you realize, oh, I don't want to do product management. I want to do UX design. And so in general, like if your goal is to become a product manager, I always tell people, take the job that you can get, whether it's big company or small, and then build on it to go down the path that you want. That title is very powerful. Once you get that title, it does open up a lot of doors.
Got it. Excellent. Let's move to your current role. So you joined as a VP global head of product management at Cognizant, one of my favorite companies, export from India. So tell us, how do you usually prepare for a role like this? I mean, how do you prepare? How do you come up with your first 90-day plan and stuff like that? Maybe because you're still new comparatively, maybe it's a good time for
you. That's what I say. I say I'm still new. I say that. I don't know if that's true anymore. But I'll still, as long as I can keep saying it, I'm going to keep saying it. How do I prepare? I love that question, that form of that question. Well, I think most crudely, everything that came before is how I prepared. Everything else that I did before is what I prepared. Now, when you're asking like what were my plan for the first 90 days, which I think lasted 15 days. I think the plan, had to change within the first week or two. Also notably because I started March 15th, and I'll never forget the date I started, because that was the date they also closed schools in New York City here. So as you can tell, that is not my artwork. That is someone else's artwork. So so it was an interesting time to start. So that's part of the reason that the plans changed pretty quickly. But at the end, the first 90 days, I have a global organization. I wanted to. You kind of, just like you would approach any project, right? You kind of make sure you're going and you have your hypotheses. You kind of design your experiments. How are you going to validate these hypotheses? And based on what you want to do, what's the next thing you need to look at, or what's the next thing, or if one of your hypotheses are wrong, what would you then want to look at or get into? So that's how I approached it. And I approached it with, I wanted to talk to everybody. And so I kind of for my first 3 months, it was kind of different themes of learning. And so it was people outside of the product management community. And then the next one was like people inside the product management community, because it's we're 300,000 plus person organization. So there's a lot of different perspectives you want to capture across all of it. So it was internal, external, and then really the final 30 days was kind of about synthesizing and organizing it, the data, the information that I collected, to kind of chart a path forward. Now, before I started, I created a roadmap, I created a path, but what those first couple months were about was validating and cross-checking against different assumptions, and seeing what changes I'd have to make or what would work or not work based on different culture or different ways of thinking, and just understanding like where we were capability-wise, where we were based on geography, etc. So it was again, I approach it just like I approach any kind of product. Is I stack rank my risks, my assumptions, and then I just start working through. I make sure it's organized. I collate my data, and then I start executing against it. I'd say the part that changed was things didn't happen. Originally, I think I had planned to fly all over to meet my team in person, and I had all these different in-person things planned. So that didn't pan out as expected. So things I worked them through a little bit differently. But in the end, it was great. I learned that we have a great team, that how forward thinking the organization was, and being kind of very goal oriented, and how welcoming they were to a lot of the change that I wanted to do around product management, and being more outcome oriented, and along many of those lines. So it's a great gig. It's a great company. It's a lot of great people. And so yeah, it's constantly, you're constantly learning, you're constantly iterating, and you're constantly adjusting. And so yeah, I do keep saying I'm the new guy. So it gives me more room to experiment and to try new and wacky things out.
Right. So I would like some help to be specific. That's why we are doing a 2-hour podcast to go deep into topics. Most product managers or head of products or leadership roles, of course, the title is great, but sometimes what happens when the organization is large, there is a risk of the role not being defined properly. And sometimes one of the lessons that I learned from one of my mentors was the first things that you do in your early days is to ensure that there's a clear match of expectations, because somebody has to evaluate your success metrics on how will you be measured with your contribution, right? So is this something that you also do with your bosses on, hey, I am this global VP role, but what is going to what would success for me look like? Maybe that would be a good lesson to learn.
What would success for me look like?
Yes.
Well, I think at the end of the day, success. I'll talk larger, a little bit longer term. Success at the end of the day is being the go-to choice when people are trying to solve problems. They're trying to that whenever a product management skill set or resource is being thought of, we're the first choice for the majority of the Fortune 1000 companies. That's at the end of the day. That's what we're here to do. We're here to build products for the Fortune 1000, and so there's a lot of things to build. There's a lot of foundation and a lot of layers to kind of build up along the way. But that's at the end. That's how you measure success. Is we should be the go-to. We should be the first thought in everyone's mind when it comes to I've got a product management problem, or more importantly, I think I have a problem. Can someone help me figure out what I might need to do? Or I don't know where my users are, or I need to improve retention, or I need to reduce costs. We should be that first thought. Because we're about being outcome driven. We focus on really getting in there and discovering. Like, you might say it's problem X, but we might find out it's actually problem Y, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to get you to point Z. Just staying with the alphabet theme there, point Z, to kind of accomplish your goals, and then let's go beyond that. So we want to. That's the business success. I think. Inside the company, that everyone should understand the value of product management, product mindset. Beyond the Fortune 1000, it's about Learning more about the Cognizant way of product management. We'll be doing public and open programs to help teach people more about product management and the capabilities. We'll be on YouTube. We'll have AMAs. We'll have lots of programs, more kind of as we go into next year. But we're going to be really building out. We want to help the broader community, the global community. We want to provide avenues to other companies to kind of learn about a lot of the progressive things that we're doing kind of on the cutting edge of product management here.
Got it. So you said, you define the turf, the value of product management. How do you do that? So is it something that you send out emailers to everybody saying that, hey, next time there is a product question, come to us? How do you build that influence? How do you mark that boundaries, especially when a role is new and that might not have been before? So how do you get those change in mindsets and set yourself for success?
Lots of meetings. At the end of the day, it's I think some of it's about talking. It's about networking within the company. It's about networking with clients, about talking to people about what we're doing. It's at the end of it's. I like to think of it this way. I'm not trying to sell product management. I'm trying to sell product mindset. And so it just so happens sometimes when I talk to you about a product mindset, and that means I'm talking about user value, business value, reducing risk, setting that North Star, making sure we're continuously moving towards that North Star. So that's product mindset, and the experimentation that goes along, all that other stuff that goes along with it. That's what I mean when I'm selling product mindset. I don't even say product. And so it just so happens when you kind of get in there and you understand the problem or what the solution strategy needs to be. Sometimes, guess what? I happen to have product managers that are the right kind of people to do that. And we work with these other awesome teams, whether engineering managers, agile gurus, full stack engineers, designers, and other interactive masters. And so the consultants. So like we have, it's kind of, you bring together all the right people. If product managers solve that, great. If not, that's fine too. It's kind of, you want to work through that product mindset. And so some of it's about talking and explaining to people, but at the end of the day, you got to show it. Product management works. It works through demonstration. And so when you show success, when you show what it means, when you really show what it means, and to focus on those outcomes, when there's a strategy that's driven by those outcomes and iterating towards them. When you show that success breeds more success. And so that's how you approach it. You approach it, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of networking, absolutely, like I said, a lot of meetings. But also you look for opportunities to really demonstrate the skill and the value add of a product manager versus not having a product manager involved in something. And that's how you kind of grow it out there more. But at the end of the day, you talk about product mindset, and you show every problem as you approach it. When you approach it from a product mindset perspective, what the actual impact is, and that's what progresses and moves things and continues things on the positive trajectory. That's how I've approached it, and that's how we've been so successful so far.
Got it. Excellent. You also said you meet a lot of people. Like just to know specifically, do you just list out the number of people, say your peers in other functions, and then maybe sync up with your boss saying that, hey, these are the people I'm trying to meet? How do you arrive at the number of people that you talk to? Because in large organizations, there is no dearth of people that you can talk to. You can spend the next.
True. That is provably true. So it's you approach it with you know what you want to accomplish, and you kind of you start, it's an onion. You're kind of working from the inside out, right? So you make sure you work with your core organizations, and you talk to your other business units. You talk to people who talk to the clients. You then talk to the clients. So you kind of you keep working your way out, and you keep moving around. You're right. It's a big company. There's never not someone to talk to. Kind of going down that double negative path there, but Cognizant is really a great place. There's a lot of people that just want to help everyone out, and they want to help everyone be successful. And so it's an easy place to just reach out to someone, introduce yourself, and then see what you can kind of do together, and how you can kind of build up towards greater success. It's just a common way of thinking in that everyone's trying to figure out how to lift all boats. It's not. I'm not in it to just raise my boat. Do I want to? Yeah, I want my boat going up also. But I also know that my success depends on everyone else's, and that's just a common philosophy that we're all part of Cognizant, and we're all working towards that goal. And we might work hard to kind of understand each other's perspectives and figure out how we can kind of all together, collectively, kind of move the thing upward.
You mentioned earlier that in your first startup you made all the mistakes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you made newer mistakes in new organizations. But somebody who is beginning his product leadership journey, what are some of the things, mistakes or traps one should be careful of to succeed in a role like this, especially in early days of his product leadership career?
So you're new to product leadership. What do you want to be doing? So I'd say the first thing is, I think Google did great research. Google's people operations did this awesome multi-year study about what makes a great organization. And so there's five critical pillars to what makes a great organization. And I think there's a couple key takeaways in that. First, it's not about one person. It's not about that superstar on the team or on a team, or what makes a great team. It's not about a superstar. It's about feeling safe. It's about feeling comfortable taking risks. It's about creating an atmosphere where it's okay to fail. It's okay to not be right. And so, as a new product leader, share your mistakes. What'd you do wrong? What hasn't worked for you? You need to make sure you're connected. You got to create a safe environment, a team that kind of sees each other as a family, and they're supportive of each other, flaws and all, is going to be an awesome team. It's going to be an awesome company. And as a leader, you're there to be a coach, a mentor, to the people on the team. You need them to feel safe to speak, to share an idea. If everyone's not able to express their ideas, you want to have that diverse team, that diverse perspectives, and you want people at the end. It's safety, it's comfort, it's knowing that I can say something and I might say something wrong, and then everyone will roll their eyes and then they'll laugh at it and go, okay, that's fine. And so I think in part of it is, you really, as a leader, you need to share yourself. And you have to share sometimes what you did wrong, because if you look perfect, everyone will think they have to be perfect, and no one's perfect, and no one realizes how messy the sausage making can be, especially from lower levels below that leader role. And the more you can kind of help create transparency and create openness, and really just that comfort to take risks. Because at the end of the day, I have a team working for me to come up with better ideas than I have. I've got good ideas. I know where I want to go. I can tell you what I would do, but you're going to end up working on it more than me. So what do you think we should do? And you tell me the path. That's what I want to know. And so I want people to take risks. I want people to be creative. I want people to push the limits. And you're only going to have that if they feel safe in pushing those limits, if they feel safe falling once in a while. Now, they got to learn from it. We all got to learn from the mistakes. We all got to learn from the failures. But there can't be retribution. There can't be punishments for taking a great risk and having a great failure. You want to learn from it. You want to feel safe making that mistake. You don't want to go, oh, crap, I made a mistake. I'm not coming to work. I might not come to work tomorrow. You want to feel good about it. You want to feel supported from everyone all around. And that always starts at the top. The culture, the team, the environment, that starts with the leadership.
Got it. So you mentioned about building within the team, okay, your team, the team that reports to you. how about building? You mentioned also about building trust and credibility, which is very important. And usually, it is the first initial few days where you build your trust and credibility. And once, if you fail in building trust and credibility, it becomes all the more difficult to build it later. So, how do you do that? Not just within your team, but your peers in other functions, and also upwards with your bosses.
You got to deliver on what you like. So build upwards. You got to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. That's kind of where that starts. It's and you also have to be able to clearly communicate, succinctly communicate, especially if I'm talking managing upwards. Like that's as far as downwards. Like I said, it has to be humanized. You have to be transparent. The more everyone's goals can be clearly understood, and where everyone's marching, and what's working or not working, and what was tried and worked and didn't work, the more you can kind of communicate that and get everyone involved in that conversation, the better. That's why, like, everywhere I've gone, almost everywhere I've gone, I've rolled out OKRs, and I'm doing that. I'm starting to use those here, and those are a great tool for communication and transparency, showing people what my goals are, what I'm working on, the things that I'm trying, and I'll also be open about the things I tried and didn't work. And I'm always looking for the things. I'm always trying to double check. I'm always trying to challenge people to challenge me. If something's not working, tell me. If something is working, great. Can we make it better? And so it's about trying to create a lot of that atmosphere. But at the end of the day, you're there to deliver. You're there to deliver on the goals. And so if you're talking, how do you get people to trust you? How do you kind of do that? That's one of the most fundamental things. Then you got to that, and then like be open about the mistakes, because you want to show, hey, if I made a mistake, let me show you that I fixed it and I got on top of it, and I show you like what's the path to kind of getting to the next correct place. I think that's the foundational element. But also, don't feel like as a leader you have to look perfect to your team. You just have to look human and care and try to help and do your best. You know, almost like a parent to their kid. Like as long as you love your children and you're doing your best, you're doing a good job. That's your starting point there. And I think when you're looking at your team, you want to be looking to see what can you do to help out. If you make a mistake, own up to it, and then do better, and be transparent about it.
Got it. So for a role like this, especially in a large organization like this, the scope of work could be overwhelming. And I have had some conversations before with product leaders, and usually they have frameworks like people, process, and product, just to simplify things on where they should be putting their efforts in, and then syncing up with their bosses, saying that, hey, you know what, this is my plan, and this is how I would like to work on the process side, improve this, and maybe the people side, hire these new people and stuff like that. Do you have any such framework to break the complexity into organized chunks of
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's. I wouldn't list it as kind of like a life framework for how I always organize everything. What I have is when I came in, I had assumptions as the themes I would need to address based on even just the interviews and information I had gathered before, and then I validated. And so what I have now is kind of a living roadmap that I operate off of. It's organized by themes around people, around training and learning, around how can we deliver on the key business objectives, on the revenue numbers, growth numbers, margins. So like I think some of those, you kind of have some of those top level themes in the whole equation, and then you're working to, and then here's some of the objectives within each of those themes. Here's some of the key results that we're going to be trying to execute on this year. Here's a higher level view of where we're looking over the next 3 years. From it, I think of it as a roadmap organized by themes and OKRs, and then trying to make sure that we're moving quickly on it, and trying to also just again being open about it, making sure my leadership team knows what those are. If they have better ideas, let's change them, and let's adapt it and be dynamic about it.
Got it. This is the first time I'm hearing about a roadmap which does not have only a product roadmap. because usually an IC would have a product roadmap only. But what you are saying is you also have a roadmap with themes related to people and processes along with products, isn't it?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's quite a revelation for
I
me.
just don't know a different way to think.
Everything is a roadmap. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. What about building relationship with your peers? Because that is also going to be very crucial, right? You need support from peers from other organizations, VPs from other functions. How do you do that? How do you build friendship? Because for me, soft skills, as I grow in my career, the softer skills is the harder skills to excel, because after a few years, I'm good with product. I know my frameworks, I know my strategies. But where I struggle and a lot of newbies into getting into leadership struggle, is this softer skills on building relationships and influence. So how do you do that? How do you build friendships? How can you be likable, say, if you're new in an organization?
I think we've pivoted into a new domain. How do I make friends? So, man, I don't know how. I like at the end. My philosophy is I just reach out to people. I say hi. I introduce myself. Talk about what I'm trying to do. Learn about what they're trying to do. Try to stay in touch. I think I'm just describing how to make a friend, though. It's like I'm going to tell you about tell you about my background that I think might be relevant or interesting to you. I'll tell you about what I'm trying to accomplish. I want to learn what you're doing. Can I help? Is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything that we're doing together now that we're not doing well? And so just being open about it. And that's your starting point. Then you got to understand. You want to understand what that person's real needs are, and what they're trying to do, and if you fit into that picture, great. If it's, you got to think about, like, this is a person that I should just inform once in a while. Am I going to collaborate with them? Am I partnering with them? You got to kind of understand the relationship that makes sense, what they want, what you want. But I'm just describing a friend or how to make a friend there, right? I think for folks that are, maybe that's their weak spot, it's practice, learn, repeat, right? It's okay, I said that, I'm not saying that again. I'll say something different next time. That didn't work. Or you learn, like, everyone has different personalities. Everyone's different. And so you want to try to adapt to the different folks you're working with. But I generally just approach it with, I will share whatever you want to know about myself. I'll be as transparent as I can about my motivations, where I'm trying to go. And then if I can't answer something, I'm going to follow back up with you. If there's an area I can help you with, I'm going to follow up with you, or I'll maybe allocate resources to help out with something. I'm just trying to solve problems. I'm trying to learn. Like I said, I still call myself the new guy, so it gives me even more leeway around that. But even when I'm not the new guy, I'm going to reach out. I did that when I was, whether it was Cognizant, Viacom, somewhere else. You just constantly reach out. You constantly try to meet new people, and you constantly keep trying to learn the business and different perspectives of the business, because that's how, at the end of the day, you're going to be more effective. So I think if you approach things with curiosity, with a desire to learn, where you're not pushing things, you're not selling things, you're being human, I think that's usually a good place to start. And I can honestly say I think Cognizant's one of the friendliest places I've worked, where I think that's just I've seen that's how I approach it, and I've seen that time and time again as I've spoken with more and more people here, very consistently too. I'd say surprisingly, I didn't expect so much friendliness. So I'm very happy with that. It's a great place.
Yeah, I've seen people who have this natural knack of being acceptable in any new company. They adapt well because the onus is on them, because they are going and joining a new culture, right? Of course, if a company is as mature as Cognizant, it is both sides. But the onus, the hard work is on you to be adaptable. So I was having this conversation with a ex colleague of mine, and she was talking about her challenges. So she wasn't well prepared to manage this career progression. So she went into this very senior role, and on the so she was proactive. She wanted to have a good first impression. On the day one, she made a presentation to her entire team, and with a hope that this will make she will yes, just to settle her authority and on the subject and what she brings in the table. But I think she was hyper proactive, and which actually led. It did not help her, but it worked against her. Instead, vis-a-vis somebody who should lie low and absorb for a few days and then start suggesting ideas. Would you agree to this dilemma? Because first of all, there is this urge to contribute as early as possible, and but then it might work against it.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most common mistakes folks will make, in that you want to go in, you know what you want to change, you're confident about it, or you want to make it your own, and you know what you like, and you know what you're comfortable with. But if you notice what I just said there too much, I said you, or me or I, like losing perspective of the team and whatever great ideas you have before you come. Like, heck, they hired you for a reason. You're bringing something special to the table, so you have nothing to worry about there. And I think people feel like you have to prove yourself. You do at some point. Yes, you do. You absolutely have to prove yourself at some point. Day one, day two, day 30. No, you're, as a leader, your job is to learn. You need to understand, did they try all these things before I got here? Last thing you want to do is pitch the idea that the last guy was fired on. So you want to understand the whole perspective. You want to learn. You want to learn what ideas the team has. Like, you're trying to create that environment where everyone should be able to collaborate. Like, people will follow you if you lead well. You don't need to establish. You don't need to force authority. You don't need to force leadership. Help them. Help people. Help your team. Help coach. Help mentor. Say where you're trying to go. If you've got a good place to go, they're going to come. If you don't, adjust and make it so that get to the point where you shouldn't have to force it. If you have to force it, something you're not understanding something, go back to the learning, or keep learning. So I think that's just it's a common mistake. It's kind of like your rookie mistake. It's kind of one of those things that hopefully you only make that mistake once. But you don't want to come in and change it. Like, I'll tell you all about myself. I'll let you ask me anything that you want to ask. Like, twice a year, I do these fireside chats with my team. And it's basically, I get a small group of people together and I say, I will talk to you about anything you want. Talk to you about my kids. I'll tell you about any of the kind of questions we're talking about today. I'll talk about strategy. I'll talk about hiring, like anything you want. It's all is game. And I actually tell managers you can't participate. So I just want everyone to be available and accessible, and we'll talk about anything you guys want. And I think that's how, like, especially if you're new, you want to approach it that way. I have these. I haven't been here for a full year, but they will be happening twice a year. I've done one kind of run through, and it's just talking. Literally everyone in the organization participates in the fireside chat twice a year, and so and that's what you should be doing. You should be. You got to learn. You got to listen. You got to listen, and like, I think for product people, it's a good product person. That should be their inclination anyway. So maybe it's a little easier for us to kind of think that way, just about anything, teams or products in general. But you can't force it. You don't want to come in and kind of do the strategy, or even after 3 months, if you come in and do that strategy you wanted to do on day one without changing a thing, you're probably still going to have some problems. You got to listen. You got to talk to people. You got to understand the culture. Like, you have to adapt too. Everyone's going to have to adapt. Bring your value, but understand how people work. Understand how people maybe should work, or what's the path to get to maybe a better way to execute or a better way to do something. But you got to be open to that. You got to be open to the fact that there might be a better way than what you were originally thinking. And that's what you got to test and work towards.
Got it. Thank you. So, so you join and you build a good relationship. You have done your homework. You have conversations, and now is the time to start delivering, right? Mostly senior leadership is responsible for coming up with a vision and then transitioning into a strategy. So what are some of your ways to work on the vision and the strategy? And the reason I ask this is sometimes when you join an organization, the vision is already set. Maybe you come with a new pair of eyes and you want to validate the vision and maybe ask questions. But sometimes you have to define the vision of your product line, so to say. So, what are your ways to come up with vision?
Well, hopefully there's a vision before I get there, right? So what's the vision for the organization you're joining, or the company that you're joining? You're hired to run a certain area. What is that big view? Not what you want to do this month, in a few months. What do you want to do? Like, how do you want to communicate what the ultimate goal is, what that big North Star is? And that's what your vision is. And so the vision, it's not something that you write down, you put it up on the wall and you say, hey, we're done. You talk about it with people. You iterate it, you test it. Does it resonate? Does it align? So you talk with your manager. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Is this lining up with what you were thinking about? Does this help you? It's a lot of when I think about my role in an organization, I'm often one of the questions are there other things I can help with? Are there gaps in maybe what I'm doing or how I'm thinking about it that aren't hitting all the things that are keeping you up at night? And so I'm constantly looking to see what I could be doing better with my team, or with how I'm thinking about strategically with my team to kind of hone and work through that vision and strategy. It's not and also we have a vision for my team right now, and it's communicated within the company, and we're in a pretty good place with it. But if things change, if people have other ideas, let's change it. We're going to learn. Nothing's written in stone. Roadmap, the plan, the strategy, none of that's written in stone. When you're working on the strategy, again, you own a certain product area, and you want to make sure things are aligned. But just like any process, there should be people and information flowing from below. There should be alignment with above. There should be communication with your peers, because you don't want to be missing things. But I'd say in general, it's the same way you should be approaching a roadmap. Like, you shouldn't just sit in a room one day and write a roadmap. The team should be involved. The stakeholders should be involved. Different levels for different people. The people you're executing for should be involved. So it's about getting the input, synthesizing, iterating it, communicating it, aligning, and that's how everything kind of gets formed. Your fingers are on it, though. You're there to add the value. You're there because you're an expert in whatever area you're in. But you have to create a collaborative process. Like, if you're trying to do it by yourself, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
So is this through conversations, or through workshops, or a mix of both? Meetings? How does
so I'd say usually it's through conversations, meetings. I think depending on the culture, depending on the environment, sometimes I would do workshops depending on different groups or different people. So I think I've had smaller meetings with other folks to do it, but in general, it's a lot of in a lot of cases it could be just one-offs. Like, if I'm in a startup, I'd probably just have the whole leadership team in the room, and we'd kind of work it through, iterate over the next week, work it through again, and kind of hone in on it. But in other places, you can just have one-on-one meetings, do some of it through email. You got to stay fluid. You don't want to be a blocker. You also don't want to be a burden. So you got to find that happy balance whichever kind of company or organization you're in.
And usually, is the vision for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? What is an ideal timeline for a vision?
What's the timeline? What's that? Where do I just want to go? Where do we want to go? What does ultimate success look like? That's what I'm trying to capture in the vision. I want a North Star that's really that even in 5, I want to get to that North Star soon. But it's far. It's going to be hard. We're going to have a lot of work to do between now and then. But a vision could be a 3-year vision, could be a 5-year, or it could be that like that's the long-term vision for the whole thing. Like that's what we're working towards. So I like to do the long term, and then on the off chance I actually achieve that vision before I get there, or before infinity. Then yeah, I guess we're going to refine that and we're going to make that better. But every year I'm going to, during during end of year stuff, I always revisit the vision. Do we want to adapt it? Do we want to adjust it? Because I'm looking to what are we going to do next year? What resources might we need next year? So just kind of as a natural part of that process, look at your vision, look at your mission, figure out what you want to be doing.
All right. And once a vision is set, agreed upon mutually by everybody, how do you translate that into, say, strategy? How do you achieve it? I'm sure there is organizational strategy, but I think under your domain, it would be a product strategy that is contributing to that vision.
Yeah, well, assuming like there's a larger strategy for your organization, so let's assume that. You then, for your strategy within your domain, like what can you do to move the needle? Right? I'm kind of just describing the OKR process without saying OKRs. Like what are you going to do to move the needle for the larger organizational initiatives that we care about? Like some things are easier to think about, like revenue and margins. Other things are more challenging, like if you have like as I spoke earlier about the people themes, you have your different themes, you have your different objectives. And again, it's just everything should line up at the end of the day. Like the strategy that we're executing should be fitting into the organizational and kind of hierarchically aligned with where the company's trying to go in general. And again, you want everyone to participate in it. It's not bad to have a starting point to give everyone, but you also want to create a process that everyone can kind of contribute.
So how does it? So when I say a vision gets translated into strategy, what does strategy mean? By the way, it's a means. It explains how do you reach the vision, right?
So to me, when I think about strategy, that's the strategy is. I think it would be kind of how I would summarize kind of the different pillars that we're going to execute along to deliver on that vision or move closer to that vision. And so to me, those pillars translate into themes. And then below those themes, in each of those themes, now I become a little bit more time bound. What are the objectives that I'm trying to accomplish either this year or this quarter? And then after that, what are those key results I'm trying to deliver on for those objectives? Again, to move the needle on the objectives, that move the needle on those pillars, that move the needle on the vision that helps the larger organization. So that's how I approach it. But again, like as we said earlier, I think of it very much as like an OKR roadmap, and it's always adjusting, always adapting it. And that OKR roadmap represents the strategy, and you should be able to tell a story, a narrative around that strategy. You should be able to translate those OKRs into a coherent narrative there that anyone can understand, so that it just make it more accessible for other people to contribute, to other people have ideas, and just kind of, again, facilitate the conversation.
Got it. So is a strategy, a proposed strategy like set in stone? Because usually strategies are again a lot of assumptions, isn't it? So is it like once you set a strategy, you then validate it as you get inputs from the market, from the customers along the way?
Everything you gotta. The reason I use wikis a lot, right? I don't like putting a roadmap necessarily in a PowerPoint because it adds a hurdle to change it. So I try to keep everything almost text form, because if I learn something tomorrow that just broke like some core assumption, then we should start figuring out how to change it tomorrow. Like it should be, you need to be dynamic. Like what's the point in locking a strategy in if we know that we're going to be falling off a cliff if we keep on this path? And so you need to be able to bubble up your learnings, bubble it up like surface upward learnings if it has larger impact than even yourself. And also it helps everyone who is working towards delivering on a certain objective that now makes no sense to deliver on. It's great because now you can at least say, we're not going down this path because we just learned this. So we're throwing that out, and we're gonna pivot, and we're gonna go down a different trajectory. And so you can't change things every day, but you want to change. If you learn something that's massive, you want to get on top of it. But you also need to be constantly reviewing, like double checking. You kind of create your sub strategies, your quarterly goals. You should be constantly keeping an eye on it, constantly monitoring it, and create processes around it so that that things still make sense. That we still know we're going towards these goals. That these goals still make sense higher up. You want to be adaptive. You need to be dynamic. You can't think about it. If you think about it at a more atomic level, think about it as a sprint. I do a sprint, and some things got released out of that sprint. They didn't work with the users. The next sprint, we got to take those learnings, change some stories around, create some new stories based on what I just learned from maybe a release I did or from the 2 weeks earlier. So you need that feedback loop into every process that you do. I see as a product manager, but just as a leader, as a manager.
Got it. The next important piece is communicating your vision and strategy to the organization. And I have worked in at least half a dozen companies. And in every company, we used to have the employee engagement surveys. And one of the questions that is often asked is, how much are you aware of the vision and the strategy? And the scores are always low for every company, no matter where I have worked. And so this seems like a consistent problem that even if the vision and strategy are set, sometimes it is not percolated to deep down to every employee. And so what are your thoughts? How do you communicate or ensure that it's communicated?
I am now officially going to sound like a broken record, but because OKRs help so much with that. When you setting up OKRs in a company, like, you're going to get some things right, you're not going to get some things right. But when you have OKRs, the OKRs for people on my individuals on my team are going to try to make their OKRs, whether it's for their teams or for people on their teams, line up with my OKRs. My OKRs, think of this as a tree. My OKRs are going to line up with my organization, with my larger business units OKRs, which are then going to line up with the OKRs of the company. So if you think about it that way, and so on all the way, let's say at a leaf of this tree, someone's going to say, why am I working on X? Great. If you want to know why, go up one node on that tree. That's the why. Why are we doing that? Go up one more node on that tree. Why are we doing that? Keep moving up the tree, all the way to the top where I'll be ultra simplistic to a fault, and I'll say, why are we doing that? To make money, to save money. There you go. So you should be able to, when you do OKRs and you do them well, and you use OKRs to drive strategy, you're going to why are we doing these things is when you travel up the tree. When you travel down where it's make money, the question changes from why to, so how are we going to make money? We're going to do these initiatives. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do these things, all the way down to the leaf layer of the tree. So if you have like an OKR process, that deals very specifically with that of, I have no idea what the goals are of my team or the organization. Or I'd say the worst thing, and I think this is worse, is, why am I doing this? Like, I'm working on X right now. I have no idea how this helps the company. That sucks. That sucks for anyone. That's demotivating. And if you're doing it, I would hope that it's helping the company. I always hope that it's moving the needle for where we're trying to go. If it's not, oh my gosh, we should be not doing that. And so, like, so for me, the OKR process is really the answer to a lot of those ailments of engagement and understanding as to why we're doing things. And so that's why I've pretty consistently at this point, for a long time now, rolled out OKRs where I go.
I think the theme for today's conversation should be OKRs because it it has been consistent. But I completely understand the power of OKRs. It solves for multiple issues within an organization, whether it is communication, alignment, focus, and a lot. Yeah, we follow OKRs also in my current organization, so I can vouch for it. Excellent. So one of the biggest responsibilities and the crux of a product leader is to find opportunities of value creation because you're meant to drive growth and this. So how do you? What are the some of the ways that you see value or opportunity in the future of your product line or product portfolio? Is it like do you spend a lot of time with customers? Do you scan the industry competition?
Yeah, so
What
you're
are your ways to add?
yeah, so it's everything from talking with industry, making sure you're constantly talking to industry experts, constantly talking to clients, talking to users, other kinds of stakeholders. Like just like you're on a product, right? So I'm on a product. How am I going to find my next opportunity? Right? I got to talk to the users. I have to maybe run some experiments. Maybe I have some ideas. I need to kind of test some things out. But I should also be talking to other people in the industry. I should be talking to competitors. Like, what are they thinking about it? And I should be always kind of developing and reevaluating that perspective. Asking, what is your problem? What keeps you up at night? Or why is that your problem? Why do you think that's your problem? I think why can be a lot more powerful than what. And understanding the whys and contextualizing the whys and understanding if I solve this why, is there a business around it? Is there a larger opportunity? How can I quantify this why? What is that total addressable market for that why? And you get that by talking to customers, finding trends in those conversations, and then quantifying. And that's where you're going to find your next opportunity, your next area. But you got to talk. You got to do the research. You got to ask the questions. And I think this goes to earlier in our conversation in that when product managers have to approach everything with just extreme curiosity. You got to want to know why. You can't be afraid to ask why. You can't be afraid that this why is a dumb question. You got to ask it. Ask the why, and then when they give you that answer, try why a few more times. Make sure you're at the root of understanding it, and that's where you're going to add that's a lot of the value that you're going to be able to bring as a product manager, and really driving down what's the why, what are some of the different ways that we might be able to solve it. And again, you don't have to figure that, you don't have to know the answer. Just get the right people in the room to see what other ideas other people are going to have, and then see if that becomes a why to solve. If that's a goal that we want to solve, that makes that the ROI is there. If it's there, then that's probably your next opportunity. That's your next opportunity to create value. But it's you gotta always be learning. You have to always be asking why. You have to always be collaborating with other people as to how would you solve this problem. Like, I think this is a real problem. I'm seeing it everywhere. What would you do? Oh, that's good. Now, like, if we did that, like, what do we think? Like, what value can we create for the client? What value can we create for more clients? What value can we create for an industry? So you gotta, again, within the scope, like, think about within the scope of the area of impact. But that's what you constantly want to be. And that's too small. All right, that's good. It's not a big enough problem to solve. What's another problem that I've found? But you got to get your signals. You got to talk to people. You got to get your data points, quantitative, qualitative. But a lot of it, you got to talk to people and understand their perspectives and why they're saying X hurts, and finding out that, and then that's fine. Find out that Z is the thing that's causing the X to hurt. So it's getting in there and understanding.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. The other missing piece is how much of these tasks you own, and how do you distribute these tasks to your team? Like finding opportunities, like how do you break up the tasks so that you do not do the tactical stuff, but you are just giving maybe directionally you are helping, but the team does the heavy lifting, right? So how do you So because I have seen people who move from IC to product leaders, they are not able to move away from the products, and they start jumping into offering solutions on how to look for value creation opportunities, say road mapping and stuff like that. And
I,
I've yeah.
yeah,
So maybe
you want to make sure that the people on your team, let's like my leadership team or the other people, whatever layer of leader you might be, the people on the team have very clearly understood roles, clearly defined roles. That you start with that, and then make it clear you own it. You own it. You drive it. You tell me you identify value there. If I see like to be a leader and to say you're all hands off or you're not going to get into things, that's a bad leader. I'm sorry if someone's listening and you're that. The you need to be able to engage. Also, you need to be able to jump on things. Also, like if there's part of a product area that I have insights into, I'll share. If there's some research I'm chasing down, I'll chase it down. But then I'll share it back to that product lead as an input, because I make it's on them. Like I'm asking them to own that strategy, to own that direction, and I'm counting on them to have a better handle on just the broader scope of the area that I've assigned to them. Than I might have at that particular moment in time. There might be specific things that I'll delegate out, just because we need to keep certain things moving, or because priorities, like we just have to. There's certain things come up and and someone needs to execute them, and they're just and I only have so much bandwidth. But in general, you want people to own their domains and be able to drive their domains and drive their strategies. And own it. And so if you don't have well-defined roles, then it's hard for you to let go as a leader, because then it's just random. But if you have well-defined roles, well-defined product areas, I'm looking at them. I'm asking them, where do you want to be? Where should we be in 3 to 5 years for your area? Where should we be 3 to 5 years in your area? What are we working on right now? What can I help with? Like what's missing? And I really think of it more that way, as what can I do to help move the needle for them?
got it. So talking about your team, I'm sure. I think we had one product leader that he said that leader of product management is actually a glorified recruiter. So one of your core jobs is to recruit a great team. So what is the process for you to hire great product management team for your organization? What do you
So
look for?
what do I look for? So I'm looking for my leadership team. They own specific product areas. So I'm looking for people on the leadership team with experience in those product areas, those specific product areas, because these are very large teams themselves. And then they need to have an analytical mind, a strategic mind, creative, but also be expert in product management. And so they wear a few hats kind of out of the gate, but they're there to have that breadth and that access to a product area and industry intimately. The other product managers, I'm looking for just people that are great at product management, and at different levels. And then we'll slot you into the different teams that we have. The process, it's a very well-defined process. We usually start with a phone screen. Then we move over to what I call a client simulation, which it's a change to my normal interview process, but it's awesome here. It's what's it like to work with a client or a difficult stakeholder? And we kind of do this 90-minute simulation. Because of that, that's part of the reason we have such awesome people on the team, but also they're so friendly and they're so helpful, because we did this client simulation. Anyone who made it through that is amazing. And then the final stage in our step is we kind of have what crudely called like a skills assessment. And you can kind of think of the skills assessment of, it's that day where you go for that Google interview and it lasts a whole day and you talk to like 4 or 5 people. That's kind of the last stage in our process. And so we have you talk to different people, and then that's it. That's the whole process right there. And then so we kind of have people that conduct that piece of the interview. That data then goes to the hiring committee. And the hiring committee are the people who make the decisions on the hiring based on the data. So we kind of have it broken down to objectively capture data along specific dimensions. And then we take that data and we have another group that assesses that data to make a decision. That way, it helps us ensure a diverse team and an objectively evaluated team where it's no one person saying we must hire. It has to be that committee that agrees to the hiring and the leveling of that individual. So it's a very, very, very fair process, very objective process, and a very well-defined process around how and we approach that for all of our hires.
Got it. And what do you look for specifically? Of course, you might have very good functional skills on product management, but what do you look for in the softer aspects of the person?
How they interact with people, how they deal with challenges, how they when they can't sell something, what do they do? Those are your softer skills. But that comes out in just even when it's more the harder skill questions. Some of these questions might have a real answer to them. How did you go about solving it? Or when I told you it's wrong, did you just I give up? How did you deal with that? There's a lot of different aspects. You're never just looking at just one thing. Even if you're asking one question, you're not just always looking at one dimension there. You might be looking at a few. But you're seeing how they deal with the challenge. You're seeing how they deal with the interactions. That's one of the things that's really and this team created before I got here. This client simulation interview. It's amazing. It's like a full client engagement in 90 minutes. And so you really get to feel the ups and the downs and the challenges, and you see a lot of the skill as well of what it's like to work with all kinds of different clients, but all compressed into those 90 minutes. And so you really see a lot of the human side of the people, and you kind of get at a lot of those softer skills there.
Got it. Thank you. I think we are doing good with time. 41 minutes, 20 more minutes to go. How are you doing, Jeremy? Are you okay with water and everything?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got coffee. I got tea. I'm good.
Nice. I do not know if you have done a marathon podcast like this before.
I've done marathon interviews where I've interviewed mentees and mentors, and I've not moved from my chair for 12 hours at a time. So I can go for a very long time. I'm good.
Excellent. So you have got what it takes. Excellent. My next question is it's a segue towards a segment which is very, very interesting for my audience. They look forward to this segment, and this is like the meatiest segment where my guests share war stories. And this is a segment where they share about the most important or challenging product challenges that they faced in their careers and how they resolved it. Or even if they could not resolve it, what are the biggest lessons that they learned? So do you, in your vast career, I'm sure you have memories of one or two biggest product challenges that you faced that you would like to share with us?
Sure. This is a fun one. So I was one of the founders at a company called Single Feed, and this is my second startup I did, and this is around 2006, I want to say. And it's a company that does data feed optimization. So that meant getting people's products up on the shopping comparison engines. At the time, it was things like Frugal and Nextag and I don't know, shopping.com. I don't remember all of them anymore. It was so long ago, and it was great. We were basically we found a way to basically created an expert system that basically learned on how to best classify, optimize these data feeds and automatically upload them, keep them fresh, and we were able to do it at a fraction of the cost of anyone in the industry. I think the company is actually even still around today, which is also kind of a cool thing. The funny war story was, we had put the initial version of it together. We had launched it. We were getting users. And we had just done a press release. Our VC had also kind of gotten the word out. And then everything went down. The whole thing went down. Now, at this time, I'm wearing a few hats. I'm basically running everything inside the company. So I'm product, I'm operations, I'm everything inside.
What do you mean everything went down? Did it crash or something?
No. It did not crash. It disappeared. And so we had upgraded something on the box. I don't remember what the something was. I don't remember the details of it. But basically, whatever the thing was that we were doing, they just had to migrate it to a new box. It might have even just been like a normal maintenance thing. I don't remember the thing, but I do remember what happens next. And what happened next was the site, it was just down. I couldn't log in. No one could log in. We're on the phone. And here's the answer we got. We can't find your server. I'm like, you can't log into it? No. We can't find it. Your server, your data, your everything's been transferred to a new box, and we don't know where that is. And when we say we don't know where that is, it was a large company we were working with, and for their sake, I will not even say their name. I will say that we went to Rackspace afterwards, and they were wonderful. But I won't say this company's name. And they weren't sure what city it might be in. It could be in any city at that moment. And that was, I believe that was a Monday. That was a Monday that this happened. And this is the big reveal. Like, we were kind of soft launch, but this was like, now we announced everything. We're up, we're running. And then Tuesday came. No, still can't find it. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They did eventually find it over the weekend. The next weekend, that was. So I stayed calm, because I've learned in my life that the things to get stressed about are the things that you can actually have an impact on. And so my co-founder lost his mind. He went crazy, which was fine. I just used him to yell at people. But myself, my developers couldn't even work, because we were doing development on the production box. Like, we were small, so we were doing like everything in one box. And so basically I said, I'll let you guys know when to come back to work. But they literally lost our server, the physical server, for over a week. So to me, that's that. It was what it was. And like at the end of the day, we just grew organically. We almost never did any We really never did any marketing. We never did any advertising, and we grew amazing and organically. And it just worked, and it grew. Like, our next biggest challenge with that company was, because we started growing so much faster than we ever expected. We started getting so many more clients than we had ever expected. Our next biggest challenge was, how do we transition to and scale this whole thing without disrupting our existing users? That became our next challenge. So at the end of the day, see, it didn't matter. At the moment, it was, what the heck? I've never heard, like, how do you lose a server? Like that, the concept, even to this day, just even if you kind of go back in time, even then it didn't make sense. But yeah, so I think that, to me, that was like one of those ultimate war stories, in that, yeah, we had just launched a new startup. We had all this great investment behind us. We had all this great, we had this great publicity on that kind of kickoff, and oops, the server is gone. And there was literally nothing you could do, and you just had to wait for them to find it. So that's just what it was. What it was. We got back on track again. Had a great team. We powered on from there.
Got it. Thank you. Have you had any experience of say products not succeeding at all, and then you had to take that tough decision to pull back that product or kill the product that had no future, so to say?
Yeah. When I got hired at Viacom, I started with a very small team before I grew it to a huge team there. And the product I got brought into was kind of an ETL platform. It was kind of like a feeds platform. It's basically how they transfer data from the databases to the websites or to places like Hulu and because at Viacom we've got a lot of content, we've got a lot of information. It's changing every day, and it was a horror. It was a product on fire, and so I was brought in to fix it, and we did. And it took a while, and we put the flames out. We got the ship working again. Now you kind of fast forward a few years, and better things came along. We're doing a lot more work with APIs instead of feeds. And we're doing more work with REST interfaces instead of feeds. We were centralizing our content, so you didn't need to transform them anymore. So the first thing I had advocated to shut down there was the very thing I was hired to fix, and I still had overseen. Now one of the product managers for me was overseeing, but it was basically, that's why I was brought in, and now it's time to shut it down. And so it kind of came full circle. But guess what? We had better things, we had better approaches, and so that's the path we went. So yeah, I think that's probably one of my more recent time to retire it, time to shut it down. I think it's an important lesson for product managers. Like, you always need to stay. You have to use your product, but never get emotionally entangled with it. Always stay focused on the problem you're solving. And sometimes the right solution to the problem you're solving is not that product anymore. And so you need to figure out, how can I replace this product? How can it's not always about, I need to make changes to this product because I need to keep this team. Think about what problem you need to solve. And when you organize around problems, that's how you're going to end up delivering the better success. And then that new team's going to work on that new problem, that new product.
The reason I asked this is, and I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's a product leader as well. You talked about not getting emotionally entangled, which I understand. The bigger aspect of why product people do not want to raise the flag saying that this product has no future, because they associate the product's failure with their failure, because they think that they are responsible. No matter what the evidence is, they are responsible to make it a success, and therefore they would never dare to bring this to the management, saying that
and it's not their fault a lot of the time. Let's also be clear there. It's a structural challenge. A lot of places things get built around a product, and the domain is you own a product. And it's also just depending on the type of company, that is the best way to organize it. But as a leader, maybe overseeing that, you also need to recognize that people are going to become attached to that product, and you need to figure out what you need to do to kind of shake it up and break the mold. There's plenty of companies that organize around problems, and the teams get tasked with solving a problem. And so maybe it's adding a feature to another existing product is how they solve it. Maybe it's creating a new product. And so it's cultural, it's organizational. It's not a trivial problem to solve by any means. But you have to recognize that when you are organized, where someone is not owning a product area or a problem area, when they're owning a product, that they are going to get attached to it. And it's going to be hard for that team to be the ones to say, we need to get rid of it. And that's where leadership and that's where management can add a lot of value to it by shaking it up, by helping people think more outside of their domain, which is their product, into other areas. Like, at the end of the day, if their job is to optimize numbers and it's for their product, it's hard for them to say that I'm going to shut down this product, because that sounds like they failed, because that's the thing you told them to improve. So you need to be aware of it when you are structured that way as a leader, as a manager, And your job is to make sure that, do I still want that product? And if I don't, what am I doing with these people? Because you've got people and you need to care for those people. And where are they transitioning to a new product? Are they going to focus on solving certain types of problems? But it's a function of the design of the organization a lot of the time. And so you can't blame that product person necessarily for saying, I'm not shutting down my product. But if they own maybe an area like data or data, like if they own a larger area, like where it's more defined around data and just the efficient flow of data, which is a problem, then it's easier to say, hey, I'm going to kill the feeds product and I'm going to like launch an API product, because that's going to be a better way to do it. They're not as much logged in, like hooked into that feeds product. But then again, if I'm the product manager of feeds, man, I'm going to fight you to not kill my product, because I don't know what I'm going to do. If people can't see the future as to what they're going to do, they're going to hold on to the present as hard as they can. And so you need to make sure that there's clear paths and it doesn't feel like the end of the road for a person when a product ends.
Got it. Excellent. I've got last two questions and I'm just being mindful of the time, 5 more minutes. Good enough time to take 2 more questions. I wanted to ask this to you because you are a thought leader. You have worked really hard to build thought leadership in product management. Maybe you can shed some light and maybe give some advice on how important it is to build thought leadership and what can it do to accelerate one's career.
It's funny. I'd never really thought about all the thought leadership until more recently that I have done. It kind of just came naturally, organically. But I encourage people, get out there, share your experiences, share your lessons. In the mentorship program, I have every mentee. As a mentee in my mentorship program, man, you better have learned something. Like, that's why we did this. And so I have every mentee write an article, and I have them share one thing they learned in the program. It's for everyone who didn't make it in, for everyone who could also benefit from that lesson. As a product manager, share what you're doing for your product, because it also works both ways. Go get on a panel somewhere. There's lots of panels. There's lots of places to talk. There's a lot of places you can post up articles to either talk about what you're doing with the product, or just share that knowledge. Because when you share, you're going to hear back from other people. You're going to be challenged in ways you hadn't expected, and it's going to make you a better person also. But you got to put yourself. I encourage people to say yes more. It's a funny thing. I go to the mentorship the program as an example. I didn't mentor a few people that were asking me all the time to mentor them because I thought I didn't have the time. That's why I said that. And then I launched the mentorship program, which turned out to be, 100 times more time consuming than it would have been if I had mentored just those 3 people. And so you always have more time than you realize. And you will serve if people are asking you to share something, if people think you would be of value to do it, or even if they don't, tell them you would be. Share something. You have more time than you realize. You just don't always. It's not always obvious. You're in the center of your own storm, and you have to just prioritize. Like, share with people. People will share back with you. You'll become better. Not just recognized, but you'll be helping people. People who help people get helped also. And it pays off. It pays dividends. It pays dividends all the time. And at the very least, you've got good stories. Share them.
How did you get help doing all of these things? I know you have not done to get help, but
I get help because through the product group, I've met a lot of great people, and I've got a great network of just people expert in different areas of product management, in different areas of different industries. And so I know that if I'm looking for something cutting edge, or I'm looking to see what maybe people are doing that's new, there's some people I'll reach out to, and I'll just say, hey, what are you hearing? Or if I have an idea, I've got people I bounce ideas off of. So for me, it's about, you just reach out. You build your network that way. That's how you build a network. You build a network of the people you helped, or the people you shared something with, and you have a connection with. That's your network. And and know their strengths, know their weaknesses, but keep the sharing going, and it'll come back to you.
There is a certain segment of product people who are really great at their work, but they feel uncomfortable tooting their own horn, as they say, out in the public and going and showing up and talking and writing. So they have a point, but how do you answer them?
You're gonna have to do it. You just got to do it. You're gonna be on hey, stage fright. You're gonna have, if you're uncomfortable with it, it's think of it. Let me contextualize it differently. As a product person, you often don't have a lot of influence, but you got to tell a lot of stories. You gotta paint the picture for people. You gotta talk to people. You gotta talk to a lot of people, whether it's an internal or external product, more data, more wherever it is. You gotta talk to people. You gotta paint the picture. You gotta convince people to follow your vision, whether it's a bigger or smaller, whatever the size of that vision is. They gotta follow it. So getting on stage, however much it might scare the crap out of you, do it. It's great practice. At the end of the day, as I said earlier, it's the soft people skills that are gonna move you up once the foundation's in place. And there's no better way than just getting out there, having people ask you questions, being scared, but then doing your best. And then guess what? Maybe that one didn't go so well. I've had talks there. I was like, oh my gosh, I'd give myself a C- on that one. I could have answered those questions so much better. That's okay. I did not do the next one. I made sure I had another thing lined up next week, where I got back out there and I tried different answers. I'm like, there we go. That felt right. Now I got it. And I think, again, it's what you don't see. What you don't see with, I think, when you're looking, if you're looking up to a leader or a manager and you're going, how do I be that person? You don't see how much work they're putting in, how many things they got wrong along the way, how much of it was trial and error, and then try again. You don't see it. You see the end product a lot of the time, and you don't see the missteps, and you don't see a lot of those different, a lot of just how that person came to those answers. You got to get out there, share them, iterate on them, try again. But you got to push through it sometimes. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I get it. I understand. But these are also skills that are going to do you well in a company, to be able to communicate when maybe you aren't comfortable, you don't know the audience. So it's great practice for the job. It's great to be able to help other people, because trust me, there's something that you've learned or something that you've experienced that you don't realize someone would benefit greatly from having known from you.
Excellent. Jeremy, I dropped you a private chat here. I'm just being mindful of the time here. Well, this brings us to the end of an insightful conversation with Jeremy. We covered a host of varied topics. And as I said, I love the longer formats, and some of my audio listeners on my podcast, SoundCloud, they also love it. For some reason, it's like counterintuitive. We all have attention shortages these days. People still prefer the long form podcast. And the reason being, long form podcast is when we can drill down, we can go deep on topics and not just touch upon them superficially. So I cannot thank you enough for your generosity, Jeremy. This was kind of you, and thanks again for your time.
Always happy to do it. I hope some of my answers were helpful for some people out there. And I just add one last thing. We are hiring leaders and we are hiring product managers all around the world. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as the product guy is my profile there. That's probably the best way to reach out to me. Reach out, and then I'll get you connected into the right people on the team. We're hiring every country, everywhere in the world, leaders, senior product managers, all types. So do please reach out.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.